Hey everybody, welcome back to Weaponized CAD. This is the first episode, and I need to warn you, it is going to be dreadfully boring. This is the AutoCAD user interface, right up there. AutoCAD user interface. It's everything you see when you start AutoCAD. It's everything you're going to be looking at while you're using AutoCAD. I'm going to show you how to move things around, how to turn things off, how to turn things on, get yourself set up in a nice environment so you're comfortable working in your AutoCAD space. You're only going to see my video on this for a few more seconds while I'm talking, then I'm going to turn it off and we're going to get right into it. So, welcome back to Weaponized CAD. I'm your host, Danny, and let's get right into it. Alright, so I'm going to close this because we don't need it. When you start AutoCAD, this is AutoCAD 2021. When you start AutoCAD, you are looking at the Get Started screen. It's like a welcome screen. It's kind of cute. Doesn't really give you a whole lot. You've got your Get Started over here, Start a Drawing. These are all your recent documents. It's going to be populated with the default documents that AutoCAD ships with. Your notifications here is, have you tried Restore, Repair, and Recover Drawings? I never click on this. Every once in a while, there's something in there that might be interesting that I'll click on, but I've been doing this for so long, it's all knowledge that I already have. But you guys starting out, you might find something cool in there. Down here is how you connect to your Autodesk account if you have one. I know some of you are probably going to be using student accounts. If you have a student account, through, say, your high school, if you have a high school email, if you have a college email, you can download a student version of AutoCAD for free, and I believe you can use it for 1 year, and then you have to re-up. So you jump onto Autodesk.com, log into the student side of Autodesk.com. It's going to have you create a username and a password, and you would sign in right here, right where that circle is showing. And then there's a send feedback button. Down at the bottom, you'll notice this little yellow 10 right here. Down at the bottom, that's just letting you know that there's 10 notifications. You'll see it down here. And then there's a Learn tab. Now, when AutoCAD starts, this isn't super obvious to people. So what I'm doing right now is essentially things that you're going to find in this Learn tab, but it's going to be a little bit better tailored to learning from scratch, as long as you don't mind my voice, hopefully not screaming at you, screaming the information to you. But if you click on the Learn tab, it's going to slide over, it's going to tell you what's new. I'm using AutoCAD 2021, which is now 2 years old, so there's new features that they've added since 2020. AutoCAD's been around since, oh my gosh, the late 80s, I believe, mid to late 80s. There's getting started videos in the middle. There's learning tips, and there's online resources. This is going to get you to the Autodesk.com website. There are forums. There's a ton of information out there. What I'm trying to do is get this all packaged up and hopefully not waste too much time discussing stuff like this and just jumping straight into the meat. So now that we are in our Start tab up here, these are your drawing tabs. When you have multiple drawings open, they're going to stream across this bar right here. So right now the Start tab automatically pops up. I'll show you how to turn that off later where you don't see it. But for right now, let's go back to the Create tab down at the bottom. And all I want to do is click Start Drawing. And what it's going to do is it's going to open a brand new drawing using the acad.dwt template file. That's a drawing template file, DWT. However, when you create a new drawing, it's going to open it from that DWT, carrying all of the settings that Autodesk gave us out of the box, and it's going to create drawing, in my case, drawing 3, as a DWG. You see it up at the top. Autodesk AutoCAD 2021, drawing number 3.dwg. Like I said before, we've got our Start tab, and we have our new drawing here. We're just pretty much going to go all the way around The outside, I'm going to tell you what everything is. Like I said, it's going to be dreadful. It's going to be so boring. And when I'm training classes, this is the worst part of the class because I can see everybody dozing off, but it's very important to understand where to find things. After the classes, I'll get a bunch of calls because people were screwing around on their phones, weren't paying attention to this basic UI information where I explain everything that they need to know about where to find the different tools. And I get calls because they were, again, not paying attention. And I end up having to repeat myself, which I don't like doing. Up at the top in the upper left-hand corner is the AutoCAD A. If you click on that, it's going to pop out a menu here. There's a new flyout. You can create a drawing or a sheet set. We are not going to get into sheet sets until much, much later because that's very, very technical, very complicated. It's when you're working with multiple drawings and you need to tie them all together and be able to print or plot them in one click. You have your open menu. You can open an existing drawing. You can open a drawing from AutoCAD Web or Mobile, which we're probably not going to touch. AutoCAD Web and Mobile is really for field guys when they need to pop something up on like a tablet or, God forbid, their phone. Opening a sheet set's in here. Open a DGN file, which is a MicroStation file, which we're also not going to touch because MicroStation is a competitor to AutoCAD. And then you can open sample files from in here. You have your basic save button. You have your basic save as button, which has a bunch of different options. I'm not going to touch those right now. You have your import button. You can import PDFs, again, MicroStation DGN format and other formats. You have your export. You have your publish, where you can plotting, printing and plotting and publishing are all kind of tied together depending on what you need to do. So when somebody says publish this or somebody says plot this, they're either asking you to print it to a literal printer, they're asking you to print it to a digital PDF, or they're asking you to package up all the drawings and all the information into a separate file that you can email. We're probably not going to get too deep into that either. Publish button, just like I said, publish and print, pretty much the same thing. It's different options in each. When you publish something, you can publish it to a 3D print service, which we might get to down the road. I might show you guys how to take a model file that we will probably design in these classes, how to export it, how to publish it, and how to get it into a format that like an Ender 3 or an Ender 5 can actually use to print a 3D model. You can archive, you can e-transmit. E-transmit is packaging everything up and putting it into a zip file. Makes it easier to send, compresses it, it's great. Email, same thing. You're literally just attaching it to an email through AutoCAD. It takes a step out of creating a new email. Share view, we're not going to touch. Print, we will get to. I'm really just going through the menus right now. We're not going to get too deep into each one of these pieces because eventually we're going to get around to them. I'm just showing you where to find things. So the print menu, plot, batch plot, plot preview, 3D print. Drawing utilities we're not going to touch right now because these are more technical. These are for when you're having issues with drawings. So we're definitely going to come back to that. And then close. Now, close, you can either close the current drawing or you can close all drawings and keep the AutoCAD window open. So essentially what close is doing is it's going up here and it's hitting the X on whatever drawings you have open. It's going to ask you if you want to save it, but it's going to keep AutoCAD open. Down at the bottom, you have Exit Autodesk AutoCAD 2021, where if you click that, if you have 10 drawings open, it's going to go through each drawing and say, changes have been made, would you like to save? Changes have been made, would you like to save? And it's going to do that through all of your open drawings. Also, I've found if you accidentally double-click the A up here, it's going to close AutoCAD. So try to prevent yourself from doing that. I do it accidentally every once in a while when I'm rocking and rolling through something. I'll double click it and AutoCAD will close, and I'm like, oh man, I wish that would just go away. Next button over is your new drawing. Creates a blank drawing. Button after that is the open. You can open an existing drawing. Next button is save, save as, open from web, save to web, and plot. It's essentially this list condensed into these small buttons up here. Next button over from plot is the undo button. And the undo button will let you, say you draw 20 things. You can undo back 20 things, and you can redo forward those 20 things. So that's very useful if you get a little carried away and then you say to yourself, I probably shouldn't have done that series of commands. I need to undo back 5 steps. This is the fast way to get to it up here. There's a drop down next to it where if you've run a ton of commands, this menu is going to populate every command you've used as far as it'll let you go. And there's probably even going to be an arrow down at the bottom where you can scroll even further down. So if you decide 500 commands in, if you're like, oh man, I really screwed it up at command 450, and nobody keeps track of that. It might be something like a subtract or a union. You can actually find it in the list that's populated here. This is the redo button because we haven't done anything. Redo is grayed out. Nothing to redo. Next button over is how you get to the different buttons up at the top here. So you're not limited to these buttons up at the top. If you click this and you say, you know what, I really want the batch plot button up there. Click that, boom, you've got a batch plot button right up at the top. Do the same thing. You might need to change your workspace settings, which we'll get into at a later date. Turn that on. Now we have our workspace switching, which is a drop-down menu, and we can toggle between them as we're working. Super useful when we get into things like Civil 3D, Map 3D. You're going to be toggling back and forth. For right now, I'm not going to go too far into it because we don't need to pay any attention to it. I'm going to leave that up. Over here on the right, this is more of the Autodesk side, Autodesk.com side. It says up here, type a keyword or phrase. If you type something in, let's say line, it's going to open the Autodesk Help. So if you're stuck in the middle of something and you need a quick answer, that's going to open your Autodesk Help, and it's going to take you to, in this case, 5,313 results for line, which is bananas. And it's not even really giving us anything good at the top. Maybe this third option would be good. So the line command is the fourth one down. I don't care for the Autodesk Help, the AutoCAD Help. If you need it in a pinch, that's how you can get to it quickly. Also, your F1 key will bring up the help button. Right next to your escape key, F1. Brings up the same help that this does, but then you have to click F1 and you type in your keyword, say line, and it's going to bring up that the exact same thing. It's two different ways to do one thing. If you don't want to see this up here, you can actually click this arrow pointing to the right, and it will minimize it and get it out of your way. There is another search button even next to this search, which is the same thing. It's going to let you search through the help, the AutoCAD Help. Next thing over is where you sign into your Autodesk 360 account. If you have a student account, if you have a corporate account, chances are you're probably going to log into that because you're going to be getting your AutoCAD license from your professional account. In my case, I'm not signed in. I have at least 2 accounts, and it's not screaming at me to sign in right now, so I'm not going to sign in. Next button over from the A360 sign in is the Autodesk App Store. I don't personally use this. There might be something good in there that you might find, and from the App Store you can load it straight into AutoCAD. That's going to be way further down the road. Next button over from that is Stay Connected. Connect with the Autodesk online community. You can click that arrow next to it. You can go to the AutoCAD blogs. You can go to Autodesk's YouTube page, their Facebook page, their Twitter page, right from that pull down. And then to the right of that is yet another help button. So we have help here, we have help here, help here, help here, and help here. 3 of them. The F1 key, your function 1 key, brings up this same thing. This is a little overkill, but it's small, it's up in the corner, it's out of the way. We're not going to worry about it. Also, the arrow next to the question mark help button gives you another menu of options. You can get to the help. You can download the offline help, which gives you, I believe, a PDF. You can send feedback. You can download language packs if United States English is not your first language and you want to download, say, Ukrainian or Israeli or Russian, not Israeli, I'm sorry, Hebrew or Russian. That's where you get them. It's going to take you to an external page at Autodesk.com, and it's going to help you load those into your AutoCAD experience. Desktop analytics, I don't touch. And about Autodesk AutoCAD 2021, you really only click that if you're not sure if you have an update. You click on that, it's going to tell you what your product version is right here, and you can manage your license here. I'm going to close that. This is minimize. This is maximize. This is kill the software. And killing the software up here is also going to tell you if you have edits made to drawings. It's going to let you know, hey, edits were made to this drawing. Would you like to save it? So don't panic if you accidentally click that or you accidentally double click the A over here. If you have open drawings that you've made changes to, it's still going to let you know that there are unsaved changes. So it's a little bit of a panic situation, if you did, especially if you didn't mean to click either one, but it does give you the option to save your work. Okay, so across the top below our new button, these are your menus. So you're going to hear me refer to menus a lot. And then below the menus, you're going to hear me refer to ribbon. This is the ribbon, this thick band right here, the lighter gray band. Each one of these menus populates a different ribbon. So if you click through them, say the Annotate tab, ribbon is different. Parametric Modeling tab, different ribbon. View, same, on and on and on, all the way across. We're going to go back to the Home tab. I called it a menu. It's a tab. So the Home tab. The tabs are these across the top. The ribbon is below the tabs. Within the ribbon are panels. So you'll notice at the bottom of each, there's a tiny black line that's separating each one of these panels, and each one has a different name. So this panel here is the Draw panel. Next to it is the Modify panel, the Annotation panel, the Layers panel, and so on and so forth. When you hear me refer to the panels, this is what I mean. If I tell you, in the Modify panel, click the Move button. In the Modify panel, click the Scale button. In the Annotation panel, click the text button, which is the big A. So you have your tabs, you have your panels. Each one of the panels, not each one of them, some of them or most of them have an expanded panel. So next to Draw, you see the down arrow. If you click on it, there are more buttons. AutoCAD is all about buttons. Trying to make it easy doesn't explain it out of the box. That's why I'm here for you guys. So we've got our tabs, we've got our ribbon, we've got our ribbon panels, we've got our ribbon panel pull downs. I'm going to keep moving on. Let's move over to this here, our compass rows. This is your view cube. When AutoCAD starts a new drawing, you're automatically looking at your drawing from the top. You'll notice it says top in the middle of the cube. North is always straight up. South is always straight down. Ignore this WCS button. I don't think we're ever going to get into anything that's going to involve this. Up in the upper left-hand corner of the view cube is your Home button. If you get lost, say you click and you're moving yourself around and you're like, what does the bottom of this model look like? And you cannot find your way home, click the Home button. Now the problem with the Home button is it's going to give you a southwest isometric. So you see that little corner of the cube there? That's the southwest isometric. And the reason that we know this is because just below our drawing list, it says SW Isometric. These are our view controls. So you have a view cube here where you can toggle it on the fly, or you can click over here where it says top, and it's giving you the same options. Top, bottom, left, right, Southwest Isometric, which is where we were. Now to get out of Southwest Isometric, you can either click over here and go back to top, or you can click top over here. It does the same thing, two different places. Next to, since we jumped from the view cube here over to this side, next to top, we have our visual style controls. AutoCAD defaults to 2D wireframe, which means that you are looking through whatever you're drawing. Even if you're drawing a solid object, you're still going to look through it. It's only going to show you the lines. If you need to see it in a different way, you can click on that, and it gives you all of your different options to show you different shaded views, shaded with lines, X-ray through the object. We'll get into that more later on. Just below the view cube over here are your essentially your view controls. So when you're within the AutoCAD, this is your design window. You're doing all your work inside of here. These controls I typically turn off because a lot of them are attached to your mouse. For instance, this button here, that's the pan button. In the past, we used to have to type P-Enter to activate the pan command. Now, your mouse wheel, if you press down on it, you'll notice the little hand there. That's your pan. Same thing with over here, pan. It's going to activate pan. Now, the problem with not using the mouse wheel is that pan is a command down in your command line. So you're panning around, and you can't do anything else because it's just grabbing your drawing. You have to right-click, and you have to go to exit. So, rule number 1 from Weaponized CAD, if you need to pan, press down on your mouse wheel. It's a button. A lot of people don't even know that. Your mouse wheel is a button. Also, your mouse wheel is your zoom out when you pull it towards yourself, and your zoom in when you push it away from yourself. So you have zoom in, or I'm sorry, zoom out, zoom in, and pan right on your index finger. Fantastic. Not going to talk about the rest of these. Zoom extents. Zoom extents is a good one. That's going to zoom to the extents of your drawing. So if you have a lot of line work and you're zoomed in real close and you're working on something and you need to see your entire project quickly, maybe keep this open for the zoom extents button. That's a good button. So let's say I zoom in over here. I'm zooming in on the axis, on the origin point here. Hit zoom extents. It's going to zoom out to the extents of the drawing that we started. We don't have any line work in here. It's just going to give us an overview of where AutoCAD wants us to start drawing. So like I said, I typically close this. I'm going to click that little tiny X in the corner. Just get it out of the way, because you're going to hit it accidentally. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to need it. Zoom extents is great, but if you're zoomed in, let's zoom way in. If you double click your mouse wheel, that's zoom extents. So now you have zoom out, zoom in, pan, double click mouse wheel, zoom extents. You don't even need that little panel over on the side. Turn it off. Moving down to the bottom right hand corner here, we have our customization menu, which I refer to as the hamburger menu. 3 lines, looks like the most boring hamburger you've ever eaten. If you click on that, this is going to populate this entire bottom part of your AutoCAD. So right now it defaults to having model space, your grid, your snap mode, ortho mode, polar tracking, isometric drafting. A lot of this stuff can be turned off until you need it to kind of tighten up this band down at the bottom here. There are things that I do turn on though. So let's go back down to the bottom. We're going to click on the customization hamburger. We are going to turn on our coordinates. we are also going to turn on our graphics performance. So two things in the hamburger menu that you want to turn on: coordinates, graphics performance. These are our coordinates here. Graphics performance is here. All right, moving across to the left, we have our clean screen button. I don't typically touch that. We have our isolate objects button. I don't typically touch that either because there are better ways to get to that. You don't want to have to click all the way down in the bottom corner. It's kind of a small button. Ignore that one too. You know what? Let's turn off clean screen. Let's turn off isolate objects because we don't need either one of them. Remember up here in the upper left-hand corner when we turned on our workspace? The workspace is also down here in the lower right. It's the same thing. It's just a smaller menu. Drafting and annotation, 3D basics, 3D modeling, save. That is exactly the same as what's up here. Next one over is our annotation scale of the current view. We are not going to discuss that right now. That is much more technical, and until we get something drawn, that is going to be irrelevant. Same thing with the buttons to the left of the annotation scale. It doesn't even look like it's going to give me a pop-up for that. Oh, and that's the other thing. If you're not sure what something is, if you mouse over it, it tells you add scales to annotative objects when the annotation scale changes. Now, this is one of the times when holding it longer doesn't give you any extra information. If you hold over one of the buttons in the ribbon, it'll tell you rectangular array. And the longer you hold it, it's going to give you a second pop-up that actually shows you what the command does. So if you're like, array, what the heck does array do? Hold your mouse over it, rectangular array, distributes objects, copies into any combination of rows, columns, and levels, creates an array of rows and columns of copies of the selected object. Because I held it over a little bit longer, it's actually showing you what that command will do. Got a little sidetracked, that's okay. These are your annotation buttons down here. We're not going to talk about them right now. Next button over to the left is your 2D cursor for your snaps. We'll discuss that later when we're actually drawing things. Just know that it's there. Also, F3. So function 3, you'll notice that the light turns off. Because it's off, it's going to tell you down in your command line, your O snaps are off. O snap, object snap. If I come back over to the O snap button down here, you can also turn it on by just clicking it. F3 is faster. Next one over from that is show snapping reference lines. This is auto snap. I usually don't turn this on. And to give you an idea, they're making it F11. So this button here is F3. The next button over is F11. F11 is a reach from the F3 button. Turn that one off. Don't use it. Isometric drafting, we are not going to use. When we get into it, I'm going to show you guys how to actually draw something in 3D. Isometric is make-believe 3D. That would be another good one to turn off in our wonderful, delicious hamburger menu. Next button over from that is restrict cursor to specified angles. That's polar tracking, which is F10. We'll get into that when we start drawing. Next one is ortho mode, F8. Restrict cursor orthogonally. This one is going to be big, F8. Remember F8. If you need to draw a line straight up, always turn on F8. Because it's going to restrict the cursor to 90-degree angles. Next button over from that is the snap mode. I don't typically use the snap mode. I like to kind of freehand it and then just move things around wherever they need to be. Snap mode you can set the snaps to different grid points. You can very faintly see this grid in the background. You can change your grid, and then you can change your snaps to match the grid vertices. So if you needed to do something that was very blocky, say square building with square rooms, that's what you would use snap mode for. You would match snap mode to your grid mode, and then you could snap in any increment you want. You could make these grid squares an inch, you can make them a foot, you can make them 100 feet if you wanted to. They could be 2.5 feet if you're feeling spicy. Might get you into trouble, but it's good to know. So that's snap mode. Snap mode is F9. F9 turns that on and off. Next one over is grid mode, which is F7. I don't typically ever have my grid on, ever. In fact, when I open AutoCAD and I see it on, I immediately turn it off. It's in the way. With the work that I do in civil engineering is never straight lines. Civil engineering is all curves and arcs and free-handed terrain. We do not use the grids. So again, grid mode is F7. Next button over is model or paper space. Not something we're going to get into right now, but I will tell you that when you start a drawing, you are in model space. This is where you do your design. This is where you draw everything. You're going to notice that it says model here. Also down in the lower left-hand corner, it says model. This is your model space tab. Model here is just to warn you. It's not to warn you in the model space tab. It's to warn you when you're in these layouts. These layouts down here are paper space. Paper space is the display of the sheet of paper that you're going to print, plot, publish. And we're going to get into that more later as well. And finally, the drawing coordinates that we turned on from the hamburger menu. Now, this bar here, this is a beautiful, beautiful thing. This is actually how I learned AutoCAD. This is your command line. And if any of you follow me on Reddit, you'll notice that before I give any instruction, I always say command line and then a word, because I want everybody to focus on the command line. In the command line, type this word. In the command line, click this button. Your command line can be scaled up, down, left, right. You can have it super tight. I would not do that. I typically like to have 3 lines above the type of command line, because this is showing me the last 3 things that I did. If you click F2 on the keyboard, F2 will expand this so you can look at your previous commands. And then click it again to retract it back down to its normal size. This little mess of dots in the corner of the command line implies that you can click and drag and move it around. Now, you're never going to want your command line in the middle of your drawing because it's going to be in the way. The best thing to do, or the thing that I do at every machine I sit down at, is I grab those dots and I pull the command line down until it gives me the ghost rectangle, and then let go. Now the command line is docked. I just docked the command line to the bottom of the AutoCAD screen. Now this does a number of things. When you are drawing in AutoCAD, if you don't have your command line docked, your line work is going to be behind the command line. When it's docked, it's essentially shrinking your drawing window by the amount that the command line is taking up. So if we wanted to expand it up, if we wanted to get crazy, I mean, you can make the thing cover the whole screen if you want to. I wouldn't do that. If you want to draw in a little tiny box, knock yourself out. I'll pull this back down so I can see my last 3 commands. So like I was saying before, down in the command line, you don't have to click down here to type a command. Now I'm going to show everyone the buttons in the ribbon. All of these buttons have shortcuts. The line command is L enter. The polyline command is PL enter. The circle command is CIR, which we will change in a later video. I'll show you how to edit your commands to make them faster. As you get more in tune with how AutoCAD works, you can jump in there and you can change every single command that AutoCAD has to any keystroke combination you want. For example, circle is CIR on the command line. If I type CIR, which takes 2 hands, you'll see that it automatically populates what it assumes I'm trying to do. So because CIR is the first 3 letters of circle, it's going to give me circle as the first option. It's going to auto-populate circle. But any other commands with CIR are also going to pop up in here. CIR is a weird one. There's only four commands total, which is rare. A lot of these commands have a million things that list here. You actually have to scroll through them. So if I want to draw a circle, I'm going to type CIR. I'm going to hit enter. Your enter key is going to be how you engage commands in the command line. Your escape key cancels out of whatever command you are in. This is not the same as the buttons up top. So if I click the circle button, I don't have to hit enter because I didn't type anything in. AutoCAD knows that because I clicked the circle button, I actually want a circle. I'm not unsure of myself. Just let me draw a circle. To get out of the circle command, you can either hit enter. Oh, no, you can't. So, okay, that's another thing we need to talk about. Some commands, the enter key will close the command. Other commands, the enter key will not close the command, which is why it's very important to know that escape will bail you out of whatever command you are in. Don't rely on the enter key, because exactly like in this case, it says, hey Danny, point or option keyword required. Well, what the heck does that mean? Because it automatically restarted the circle command. I don't want the circle command anymore. If I hit enter again, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to tell me that I need a point. I need you to click something. Well, AutoCAD, I don't want to draw a circle anymore. I was just doing this to show how these commands work. I'm going to hit the escape key. Escape automatically cancels the command out. And now we are back in a no command. We have no command active. You'll notice that when I'm windowing, click, 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 there's two different colored boxes. If you click from the left to the right, you'll notice that it's a blue box, and the border of the box is solid white. What this does is it selects everything that is completely inside the box. If you click from right to left, it's a green filled box, and the border is dashed. This means that any object that this box is crossing will be selected. So left to right, it's only going to select objects that are completely within this blue area. If there's lines shooting outside of our selection, it will ignore those lines, like they're not there. That's left to right. Right to left, it picks everything that it's crossing. If you hold down left mouse, you get a lasso selection. Now you'll notice the same thing with the rectangles. Rectangles are single click, and you're selecting everything that box is crossing. Lasso selection is the same idea. If you start on the right and you move to the left, you're getting the crossing lasso. It's telling you down in the command line what you're actually doing. It says crossing lasso. If I hold left mouse button down and I move from left to right, it's giving me the window lasso. Same thing, you're looking at the colors. Blue means everything needs to be perfectly inside. Green means anything that color or line or box is crossing. It's going to select everything that this touches, everything the light touches. I think that's probably going to do it for this video. I realize that was terribly boring. There's one more thing I want to show you. When you start AutoCAD, your background is going to be this kind of gross, dark gray, which is hard on the eyes after a while. So what you want to do to fix this background is go up to your A, click the A, go to your options. These are the AutoCAD software options. Ignore the Files tab. We're not going to ever touch anything inside of there. I take that back. There might be one or two things that we do inside of here. What we want is the Display tab. Click on the Display tab. This is everything you're seeing mushed down into a number of checkboxes. You have the option here display scroll bars in drawing window. If I check that box and I click apply, now we have scroll bars on the right hand side and the bottom. Now, hopefully you remember that middle mouse button, holding middle mouse button is pan. Because of pan being right on your index finger, you do not need scroll bars, which is why Autodesk was smart enough to keep them turned off. There are people that use them. I'm not here to judge. I think it's silly that this is even an option anymore with the advancement of mice. I'm going to uncheck that. I'm going to click apply and turn those off. That's taking up room in my drawing window. I don't want them in the way. If you want to get crazy, you can check the use large buttons for toolbars. Check that one. Click apply. You're not going to notice anything changing because we don't have any toolbars. This button here, use large toolbars, does not affect the ribbon. We have resize ribbon icons to standard sizes. That's automatically checked. I would just leave that checked. Show tooltips. You can change the delay when you hold your mouse over a command, like the array command. It gave us first the description of the command, and then after 1 second, or I'm sorry, 2 seconds. So 1 second is holding it over the command. After a second, it's going to tell us what that command is. Down here after 2 seconds, that's when it pops out the extra information and shows you what that command does. You can turn these up, you can turn these down, you can turn them off. I'm going to turn them off. Actually, I'm going to keep them on because I'm training. Well, I'll keep them on. Show rollover tooltips. Controls the display of rollover tooltips. Well, how is that different than tooltips? That's silly. Keep that one checked. I'm going to have to look into that one on my own time. I've never unchecked it. I don't even know if it does anything. Display file tabs. This one displays the file tabs at the top of the drawing area. Oh, this one is just telling you your open drawings. So if you uncheck display file tabs, and this actually happens where I work, this will get unchecked accidentally. You notice up here, our start tab and our drawing 3 tab are gone. And people will say, where the heck did all my drawings go? It's because they accidentally unchecked this here. If I check it, I click apply, the drawings are there. Now, unchecking this does not mean that the drawings are closed. They're just not quickly accessible through these tabs up here. So what we really came in here for is to change our background color to absolute black. And we do that with our colors button right here. I'm going to click colors. It's going to automatically bring us right to where we want to be. And this was really nice of them because it's not even in alphabetical order. 2D model space. That's what this is. We're building our model. We're building our 2D drawing. The uniform background color. Interface element. Uniform background. The color is some weird Pantone code. We're going to click the drop down. And we're going to click black. You're going to notice that there's a preview down here, nice and black, and it's a lot darker than what they gave us here. We're going to click apply and close. We're going to click apply. We're going to click OK, and now we are working in absolute black, and it's going to be much easier to see what we're drawing. And that's it for Season 1, Episode 1 of Weaponized CAD. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys were able to stay awake through this because this part is the worst. It's only going to get better from here. I can make that promise to you. We have to get through this basic stuff. So when I'm zipping through stuff and I'm like up in the ribbon, click on this tab and then go to the ribbon and then click on that and then go to the modify panel, you're going to need to know what those words mean. Even though you're going to be watching my cursor on the screen and I'm going to be giving you my little circle guy here, it's going to be faster if you remember what those different things mean, because later on, it's going to be automatic. Your brain's going to say, oh, I know exactly where to find that. I have to go to the parametric tab, and it's in the align dimension. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. Like and subscribe. Hit the bell. Do whatever YouTube people tell you to do. I don't know. This is only my 2nd episode. Or don't do anything. Just come back for the next episode. Thanks, everybody.